One of the most common videos for us YouTubers to make is us telling you what kind of watches not to buy. There's a problem with almost all of those. One, they tend to be very beginner focused, very obvious, like don't buy fakes. Most of you will know that. Or they tend to contain sort of hidden biases, hidden prejudices of the YouTuber about how you should collect, how you should enjoy this hobby. I'm going to try and do this a little bit differently. I'm going to give you two watches you should not buy ever, regardless of where you're at in your watch collecting journey. Oh, how awful is that? And no matter how you choose to collect. Let's see how we go after the break. Okay, so for those of you who aren't aware of who I am, I'm Pete McConville. This is my channel. If you haven't seen me before, I tend to look at watches a little bit from left field, tend to look at them a little bit differently. I'd like to say deeper than some other people. And so, yeah, you'll see some things and hear some things that you won't find anywhere else. Today, I want to talk about two watches that no one should ever buy. The first watch that no one should ever buy is the watch that they cannot describe with their eyes closed purely from memory. When I got into watches, I didn't immediately jump into like The Art of Watchmaking by George Daniels or anything like that. I actually parked all that stuff and I went and read a lot of books and got involved in trying to understand art and architecture and art criticism especially. And one of the things that was really imprinted on me was most people only look at pieces of art super quickly for a fraction of a second or maybe a few seconds. And they don't let the art soak into them. It hits their internal prejudices and biases, bounces off, and then what they're left with is not an accurate impression of what the art actually is, but really just what they were thinking they were going to see when they saw it the first time anyway. One of the keys, a little mental trick you can play to get past that, is to deliberately focus on something for longer than you maybe feel comfortable with and drink in the detail. If you drink in the detail, pay attention, look deliberately for nuance that a quick gut reaction, gut check mightn't see, you will see things, understand things, know things that you will miss otherwise. A really good test of have I looked at something long enough, and I was looking originally at like paintings, a good test of have I looked at a painting long enough to be confident that the detail, the nuance, the intention, the history, everything has got through my initial prejudices is, can I close my eyes and describe it accurately from memory? If you can do that, there's a good chance the actual watch, not merely your prejudices about the watch, have actually got into your brain. You're going to be able to process that properly and you're going to be able to form a well-grounded opinion on whether this is a watch for you or not. Now, I'm not going to tell you that you'll be happy with every watch you can remember, but what I am going to say is there's a really high probability that if you can't describe a watch from memory, when it arrives and when you've started to get used to it, there is every likelihood you're going to feel something completely different about that watch. And about what I'm about to get into next, the next type of watch, every likelihood that you will end up with a watch you don't like. Which brings me to the second watch that no one should ever buy. No one should ever buy the watch that they can't explain. No one should ever buy the watch that they can't say, this is why I like this watch and this is why I want this watch. So many people assume that their tastes and preferences are somehow innate, are somehow sort of an expression of who they are deep down, that it's their sacred id or something, when in fact nothing can be further from the truth. Our tastes and our preferences are shaped enormously and often deliberately by people outside of us. I did a video once saying, like, I never tell people to simply buy what they like, which I didn't explain very well. It was probably one one of my worst performing videos ever. But the reason I say that is because so many people would tell me that they buy what they like, but then when you dig into it, they have no idea what they like. Or more importantly, if you do ask them, what do you like, but then ask them what watches that they like, they can't join the two. And that's because the watch that they think they like because a social media algorithm has shown them, that watch 100,000 times in the last week, and it's got into their head as this is a good watch. That watch has then been reviewed by 100 other people. That watch is then turning up and getting 5-star reviews all over the place. That watch is now gathering some buzz, and they really want that watch. But if you dig into it and say, why? What is it about that watch? A, go back to my previous point, they probably can't even describe it. And B, they'll probably say, shut up, I know what I like, I'm buying what I like, but can't go any further. There's a reason, I believe this is the fundamental reason why the Black Bay is the most flipped watch on Chrono24 or anywhere else. If I did some numbers before I came here, and the sheer volume of Black Bays being flipped is unbelievable. What's actually even more interesting is do some maths, and if you take Chrono24, for example, you can kind of extract, you can do filters on watches that are being sold by dealers, which if you do the maths sort of in reverse, you can work out how many private people have bought this watch and don't want it anymore. And the number on Black Bay is up around 30% are private buyers who don't want that watch anymore. That is double what I could find on any other watch in and around that price range. I'm firmly convinced that that's because so many people are just buying the hype. If you ask them, what do you want in a watch, and then got them to compare the Black Bay 58 to it, and then ask them, does the Black Bay 58 meet what you want? The answer would be no. But by that point, they've already bought it, and it's already coming in the mail, and it's already on its way to being flipped in a couple of months' time. So what I would say is, if you can't say why you want a watch, if you have to rely on something like, well, I'm going with my gut, I trust my gut, the likelihood is you are simply buying it because you have been influenced by someone who is trying very hard to influence you. And there is a very high probability that that is not going to be a watch that will stick. If you can look at a watch, accurately, honestly say to yourself, I like this watch because whatever that is, I don't care what your reason is. If it is because it's got great resale, if it is because it will get me a lot of likes on Instagram, if it is because it fills a gap in my collection, great. You will probably be happy with that watch. If, on the other hand, you weren't honest with yourself and you didn't think it through and you can't say why it is, I think there's a very high likelihood that is not going to be a watch that sticks. So, as I said, in summary, 2 watches you should never ever buy. 1, do not buy a watch that you can't describe with your eyes closed purely from memory. 2, do not buy a watch that you can't explain honestly, truthfully, and in some depth why you want that particular watch. You avoid those 2 watches, you will avoid most of your buying mistakes. Anyway, I've been Pete McConville. That's my sermon for the day. I probably came across as a bit more preachy than I intended. But yeah, sorry, that's just the way it is. Maybe it's a Sunday here. Maybe that's just infecting me. Anyway, like and subscribe, do all that sort of stuff. That'd be great. I'll see you later. Bye.